Unfortunately, there isn't much of a shelf life for this video because the Vancouver Canucks are going to be playing a hockey game in about an hour and a half. But this is not looking good. It's really not looking good. And I think yesterday, Vancouver Canucks fans got a little bit of a taste of whatever mojo it is that the St. Louis Blues have at their disposal. Because for some freaking reason, the Blues are a powerhouse now. They came back from the jaws of defeat to win 3-2 in regulation against Nashville with 2 quick goals at the 12-minute mark in the third period. They were down 2-0 at the end of the first, but clawed back to win in regulation. The St. Louis Blues, I fear, may never lose a game again. And now, if you're a Vancouver Canucks fan who's looking at the standings, looking at the money puck odds and everything, I mean, let's just look at this right here. Right now, the St. Louis Blues have a 73.1% chance of making the playoffs. The Canucks have a 19.2% chance. Calgary is down there at 18%. Minnesota is up there at 92%, and then on top of that you have every other team that is pretty much in the running, over 97. But ultimately, the Vancouver Canucks are in such a pickle of a wildcard race that even with 2 games in hand, I find it's difficult to really envision a path where Vancouver beats and overtakes the St. Louis Blues. I don't know, maybe Minnesota is the team to go out there and start thinking about potentially capturing here. And if you wanted to be ambitious, the Edmonton Oilers are at 87 points in 72 games played. They've started to lose a bunch of games in a row. They don't have McDavid and Draisaitl. Maybe they're a target. The Vancouver Canucks have 10 games left with 80 total points on the year. Not good enough at this stage, but this game against the Columbus Blue Jackets is really going to make or break whatever momentum the Canucks can start to build. They've won 2 games in a row. We know that. Really great wins for the Vancouver Canucks against the New York Islanders and against the New Jersey Devils. They probably should have had a win against New York. The Rangers, that is. Had they beaten the Rangers in regulation, everything would have changed. They would have totally been in this race as a more legitimate threat against St. Louis, or if they had won any of the 12 games that had been lost in overtime. That also stings. But now, this is where we dive into some of the mathematics, because I wanted to dive into this Reddit post made on the R Canucks sub by Muslim Manon. Insight into the current playoff picture. What record are the Vancouver Canucks going to need down the stretch? And this is an image post that says this. Presuming the Vancouver Canucks defeats Calgary and Utah in the standings, they need to overtake at least one of the Blues, the Wild, or the Oilers. If Vancouver goes 10-0-0, St. Louis would match with 7-0-1, Minnesota would need to match with 6-2-1, and Edmonton would need to match with 6-3-1. That would be for 100 total points. If Vancouver can get 10-0-0 and one of these 3 teams doesn't perform to the record that is listed on this list, then Vancouver takes their playoff spot. Same thing going down for 9-0-1 and 8-2-0 and 6-4-0, etc. This is all assuming the Vancouver Canucks win games. If they start losing like crazy, then they're done. They have 10 games left. They can't realistically afford to lose maybe more than 2 or 3 of them. The post says this, after St. Louis and Minnesota's win yesterday, I decided to make a quick summary of how many wins the Canucks need relative to the other teams in the race. When looking at it, I feel 8-2-0 has to be enough. Surely one of the 3 highlighted teams would not be able to match that record. I could see 7-2-1 and 7-3-0 being enough as well with some luck, but it feels like the Canucks need at least 7 wins to have a realistic chance. What do you guys feel when looking at this? Is 8 wins necessary? If the Vancouver Canucks go 8-2-0, they would be matching St. Louis if St. Louis goes 5-2-1. Minnesota if Minnesota goes 4-4-1, and Edmonton if Edmonton goes 4-5-1. Ultimately, if St. Louis continues winning like they have been the past pretty much few weeks, it seems like, then I don't really see a world where the Blues fall 5-2-1 in their last 8 games here. Minnesota, they have been faltering a little bit too, so 4-4-1 is possible, especially with Kaprizov still out and Eric Sennecke also just kind of banged up a little. But I guess you could say the same thing about the Edmonton Oilers because they would need to be 4-5-1, and they don't have McDavid and Draisaitl, so a lot of their support has been going down the drain as well, not to mention the fact that Stuart Skinner has not been looking himself. Actually, he got pulled the other day against Seattle. Maybe that is him looking himself. Who really knows? It's just going to be too tight. The Vancouver Canucks, if they really wanted to guarantee things, they got to win out. But of course, it's unrealistic to say that any team should win out and go 10-0-0 in their last 10 games. And I don't even think this team is capable of doing that against some of the opponents that they have later on in the next few weeks. But ultimately, just looking at the list and thinking about the remaining games here, I would say Vancouver has 3 strikes left. If they lose 3 more games in regulation, they are done. And I get that it's kind of okay that it's come down this close to the wire, but, you know, they have been giving Canucks fans reason to believe over the past few games here. Even the New York Rangers game, where they didn't win, they didn't get a single point, even that game was so good. And there were so many amazing things that you could take away from that game. Kevin Lankinen was not the reason, I'd say, that Vancouver straight up lost, but he was one of the main contributors, and he is playing today against a Columbus team that is playing with a lot more energy because they just got Sean Monahan back. Honestly, like, the Blue Jackets are one of the more underrated offensive teams this year. Just thinking about how many 20-goal scorers they have and just how often their guys are able to contribute offensively, they are coming out of a rut right now. But when everybody is on, I mean, Voronkov, Marchenko, Monahan is fantastic. You can never go wrong with Adam Fantilli. He's been good. Kent Johnson, Igor Chinikov. When the team is healthy, the team is good. And, you know, I think it's a good thing for Columbus to be able to play some of the high-quality hockey they have been playing this season. After all, the turmoil they had exhibited in the offseason. But I'm sorry, Columbus. Tonight, I hope it's not your night. I did end up dropping Marchenko a few days ago in fantasy. I had him on most of my teams because he was a sleeper pick, but I ended up taking him out because, yeah, the guy was not scoring any points. But now it looks like the Blue Jackets are starting to get back up there, so we'll see whether or not that really does carry forward into today's action versus the Canucks. But I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about how things are going for this Canucks team and where you see everything finalizing as the night goes on. We will make a post-game video about Vancouver Columbus no matter what happens, so if the Vancouver Canucks squeak out another win, then you know that's exactly what we will be looking for as Vancouver faithful. But for now, let me know in the comment section, how do you feel about Vancouver and the standings, how St. Louis and Nashville really screwed over this Canucks team. Yeah, you know, I'm going to title the video that. St. Louis and Nashville just screwed over Vancouver. It's not looking good. Something like that. Let me know in the comment section below all your opinions about the Canucks in the playoff race heading into this game against the Blue Jackets. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.